Thank you, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen. I rise here to oppose this motion because of the war that the Modi government has declared on the poor and on the livelihoods of the people. I rise against the motion because of the war that it has declared on minorities, on truth, on decency, on civility, on democracy, and the rule of law. I rise against the motion because of the war that this government has declared on science and history. And I rise because of the war that it has declared on all our independent regulatory institutions. Let's start with the war on livelihoods and the poor. Palki said that India's economy is doing very well, that unemployment has gone down. Well, the National Statistical Commission in 2018, which is the body which does this, is the government body which does this survey of jobs and livelihoods. When it did its survey in 2018, it found that unemployment rates had gone up to 6.2%, which was unprecedented for the last more than 40 years. It was stopped from publishing that report. That report was allowed to be published only after the 2019 elections were over, causing two of the two independent members of the National Statistical Commission to resign. After that, the government has not even been doing a survey of unemployment rates. It's only an independent organization called the Center for Monitoring the Indian Economy, which does that. And very recently, in April 23, it found that the unemployment rate in India had risen to 8.3%, again the highest ever. And this is despite the fact that the labor participation rate in India has come down dramatically, because a very large number of people have just out of frustration stopped looking for jobs. It's not that they don't want jobs, but they have stopped looking for jobs because of the state of the economy. The hunger index, Mr. Dhavle also pointed out, is now India on the hunger index globally is number 107 out of 121 countries, below Pakistan, below Bangladesh, below Sri Lanka, below all the neighboring South Asian countries, and below many African countries. Ms. Palki said that economy is doing very well, the poor are doing very well. This is a clear index of how the poor are doing. The annual incomes of the poorest 20% people of India plunged in 2021 by 53% compared to 2015-2016. In 5 years of the Modi regime, the annual incomes of the poorest 20% plunged 53%. Now, if in this situation, if the GDP is growing, and if it is going to fill only the coffers of people, cronies like Ambani, Adani, what good does it do to the people, to the vast majority of the people? Just to give you one example, recently there was a report that in Gujarat, the Gujarat government is buying electricity from Adani, from the Adani company today at more than 8 rupees per unit, even though the contracted price was, and the price that was being paid till 2021 was 2.83 per unit. That means tens of thousands of crores excess payments are being made to Adani while pauperizing the state of Gujarat and its people. So, this is on the on the issue of employment and livelihoods and poverty. She said that corruption has been reduced. Now, the anti-corruption institution for which the anti-corruption movement came, the Lokpal, has been just destroyed. Nobody, first they didn't make the Lokpal for 4 years. We had to approach the Supreme Court again and again. On the Supreme Court's prodding, the Lokpal had to be made. And even that Lokpal has been made in such a way that nobody approaches the Lokpal these days. It has no credibility whatsoever. The corruption index in India is now ranked at 85 in the Transparency International Corruption Index, as opposed to number 76 in 2015. Apart from that, there is a war that has been declared on minorities, on truth and decency, on civility, on rule of law, and on democracy. Every day we see lynchings being reported in the media. People, especially minorities, are being beaten up and killed on the streets, sometimes on the ground of beef, sometimes as what is called love jihad, just because a Hindu girl is friendly with a Muslim boy, or just for no reason at all, just because the person is a Muslim. Every day you see reports of Muslims being beaten up just on the streets, shredding the rule of law, and the police just stands by without doing anything about it. There are encounter killings which are being celebrated by state governments. There was this, even though he may have been a criminal, a gentleman called Atiq Ahmed. He was shot in cold blood, virtually in broad daylight, in the gaze of the entire media, and the mainstream media and the chief minister of UP was celebrating, which was something which was clearly a fake encounter, and this has become the order of the day. This is just one example. There are bulldozers which are being used to demolish the houses of people who are accused of some crime. Firstly, they have not been proved to have committed any crime. Secondly, even if they had been proved to have committed a crime, bulldozing their house is not something that you can do. You can't punish their families for a crime that they have committed. And therefore, the rule of law is being demolished under these bulldozers. Arrests of activists, political activists, journalists, human rights activists have become the order of the day on fake trumped-up charges. In the Bhima Koregaon case, some of our finest human rights activists have been put in jail on the basis of clearly fabricated evidence which has been proved to be fabricated, that is, emails inserted into their emails by using this software snooping device called Pegasus. And yet, for 6 years, more than 5 years, they have been languishing in jail without bail, without even the trial having started. And this has become the state of liberty of people in the country today. Fake news is being spread rampantly through something called the IT cell, which, as Swati Chaturvedi, a celebrated journalist, had written in her book called I Am a Troll, is being run by no other than the Prime Minister himself, which just propagates all kinds of fake news, hateful news, etc. The media, in the Press Freedom Index, we were told India has slid down to 150 position out of 161, the lowest that it has ever been, and it has been constantly sliding under the Modi regime. The entire mainstream media has been brought to heel by the government and made an instrument of their propaganda by use of various techniques, inducements by way of advertisements, use of investigative agencies to browbeat them, and various other instruments which have been used to make them an instrument of the government's propaganda. And they have been just day and night spewing hate, spreading disinformation, etc. Every evening, if you watch the evening news, is just hate and trying to divert attention from the real news by pushing these kind of hateful communal stories. There is a war that has been declared on science. Today, can you imagine, the periodic table has been taken off the textbooks of schools? The Darwin's theory of evolution has been taken off the textbooks. It's not surprising, because where you have the Prime Minister who spouts such scientific nonsense that it's unimaginable what he says. He says that I saw a fellow who put a vessel on top of a nala, which was a dirty drain, and the gas from the drain was fueling his tea-making thing. He says that there is no climate change. People have started feeling warmer because their bodies cannot bear it. All kinds of things. He says that I asked the Air Force to bomb Balakot even though there were clouds, because I felt that now in the clouds the radars will not be able to detect our planes. So when you have this kind of a Prime Minister, obviously there will be a war on science. There is a war on history. The whole Mughal history has been removed from the history textbooks. People like Gandhi, Nehru, etc. are being replaced by Savarkar. Savarkar, who was accused for Gandhi's murder, his stories are finding place in the textbooks, and Nehru and Gandhi, etc. are going out of the textbooks. The chairman of the University Grants Commission is a gentleman who was earlier the Vice Chancellor of Jawaharlal Nehru University, who famously said that we need to put tanks on the campus of the university in order to instill nationalism among the students. These kind of people have been made head of academic institutions for higher learning. There is a war on institutions. The judiciary, all the independent regulatory institutions, including the judiciary, parliament, no debate happens, no discussions. Laws are just passed in a flash. In fact, the sittings of Parliament have been reduced to something around 60 per year, as opposed to more than 100 or 150, which used to be the case earlier. No bill is ever sent to parliamentary committees for greater discussion and taking feedback from the other independent experts, etc. Investigative agencies have been brought totally to heel and made instrumentalities of the government. The Election Commission, which used to be an independent institution, has also been brought under the control of the government, and the Supreme Court recently, Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court, in a very detailed judgment, said that the selection of the election commissions cannot be left in the hands of the government because they are appointing totally compromised people. All other institutions, the CAG, the NHRC, the Law Commission, everything, all these independent institutions, their independence has been compromised. And therefore, it is for this reason that I stand up here to say that under this Modi government has led India to a wrong path, because it has destroyed the lives and livelihoods of the poor. It has degraded critical thinking and scientific temper. It has promoted falsehood and hate. It has promoted violence and lawlessness. It has subverted independent regulatory institutions. It has degraded democracy and made it a game of money and propaganda. Thank you very much.